Hey, what's going on, guys? Rome Gaming here, back with another video. Today's episode, we're going to be going over the Retribution Paladin for Phase 3 of Season of Discovery. This guide is going to cover runes, talents, and best in slot gear. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's quickly look at the talents here. We're not going to go over absolutely everything here, just some of the more notable talents. One very important talent here is going to be Conviction. Increases your chance to get a critical strike with melee weapons by 5%. This is going to be huge because critical strike damage is very core to Retribution Paladin. And the reason for that is due to the Art of War rune. Your melee critical strikes reset the cooldown of your Holy Shock and Exorcism, and the mana cost of Holy Shock and Exorcism is reduced by 80%. So this is kind of where the core of the rotation is going to come in, is off of these instant cast exorcisms. Exorcisms is probably going to be the bulk of our damage. So most of this guide and most of this build is going to focus on exorcism. So just kind of keep that in mind moving forward with the rest of this guide. Another very important talent that we're running is the Sanctity Aura. So increases holy damage done by party members within 30 yards by 10%. So as we just said, right, Exorcism is going to be a core spell that we use, so we want to be able to buff that as much as we possibly can, and Sanctity Aura is really going to help with that, and it's also going to help your group as well. We are also putting 3 points into two-handed weapon specialization, increases the damage you deal with two-handed melee weapons by 6%. Very important to put 3 points there. And then finally, 5 points into Vengeance, gives you a 15% bonus to physical and holy damage you deal for 8 seconds after dealing a critical strike from a weapon swing, spell, or ability. So between Vengeance and between Art of War is one of the main reasons why Retribution Paladins run a fast weapon speed of 2.0. The more we can critical strike, the more instant cast exorcisms we're getting, and then the more that we can keep up our Vengeance buff. Now looking into the Holy Tree, we are putting 5 points into Divine Strength, increase our total strength by 10%. 5 points into Improved Seal of Righteousness, and then our final point into Consecration. This is going to be very important for AoE. Now, to quickly talk about AoE profile, we don't have that much AoE in this build. However, you can go Divine Storm in the chest room, and you can run Seal of Command with it. So Seal of Command and Divine Storm are going to synergize really well with our AoE profile. Okay, so that's pretty much it for talents. Let's go ahead and move into our head rune. Right, so your Consecration damage can now be critical strikes, and damage from your Exorcism, Holy Shock, Holy Wrath, and Consecration spells gain additional critical strike chance equal to your melee critical strike chance. So this is going to be a really good rune for us, right? We get increased critical strike from our Exorcism, so that's really, really good. Moving on to our chest rune, Seal of the Martyrdom. Fill you with the Holy Spirit for 30 seconds, causing each of your melee attacks to deal 50% weapon damage to your target, but you lose health equal to 10% of the damage inflicted. While this seal is active, your party and raid members within 40 yards each gain mana equal to 20% of the damage you take from the seal. So this is really going to be huge for our mana sustain. Now, this is probably a good time to go ahead and talk about mana. So this seal and Crusader Strike are going to be our two main ways to regenerate mana. So Crusader Strike isn't super great for the damage it deals. I mean, it does pretty good damage, but the main way this fits into your rotation is to regenerate your mana. And if for whatever reason you are still running into mana issues with this build, you can always cast less judgments. So if you do kind of have to prune a spell, right, it's going to be our judgment. All right, moving on to our wrist rune, Improved Hammer of Wrath. So the cooldown on Hammer of Wrath is reset each time it damages an enemy below 10% health. So this is kind of our execute phase, and we're going to be all over this ability under 10% health. Now, you don't want to replace Exorcism, right? So if Exorcism becomes available in our execute phase, we're still using Exorcism, but outside of that, you're spamming Hammer of Wrath. All right, then our waist rune, we are running Sheath of Light. This is kind of a no-brainer, but dealing damage with your melee weapon increases your spell power, which will buff our Exorcism by an amount equal to 30% of your attack power for 1 minute. In addition, your critical healing spells, bottom part's just about healing. Anyways, spell power really synergizes pretty well with our kit, so that's why we're running this rune. Then in the leg rune, we are running Exorcist. Exorcism can now be cast on any target and has a 100% increased critical strike chance against undead and demons. So, of course, without this rune, the entire build falls apart. So, Exorcist is mandatory. And then finally, in the Fit rune, we are running the Art of War, which we kind of already talked about. So, more critical strikes, more exorcisms. All right, let's talk about best in slot gear. In the head slot, we are going to be running the blacksmithing head, the tempered interference negating helmet. Obviously, it's going to be really strong. The strength, the attack speed for more exorcisms, the critical strike, everything synergizes really well with this here. So this is why we're running this in our head slot. In the neck, this is going to be coming from Sunken Temple, the Bloodstained Charm of Valor. This is going to give us 1% in critical strike with all spells and attacks and 18 attack power. For the shoulder, we are going Shoulder Plates of Dread, which also come from blacksmithing. So it's going to give us 12 strength, stamina, and agility. On the equip, once again, more attack speed, more attack power. And then finally, at the very bottom, 1% increased hit with spells and attacks. We will be running the new shoulder enchant for 15 attack power. On the cape, we're going to be running the Panther Fur Cloak for 15 agility, 6 strength. That's coming from Sunken Temple. Then on our chest piece, we are going the Wailing Berserker's chest plate, 21 strength, 14 agility, 12 stamina. The first set bonus is going to improve our chance to hit with all spells and attacks by 1%. The second set bonus will give us a 5% chance to get an extra attack on the same target after dealing damage with your weapon. So basically just like an extra weapon swing. On our wrist, we are getting the Void Powered Slayer's Van Braces coming from Engineering, 18 agility, 9 strength, and 5 stamina. Then on our weapon, this is sort of interesting, right? The Manual Crowd Pummeler is actually still going to be our best in slot. However, it's only our best in slot while the attack speed bonus is up. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be running this while the attack speed bonus is up. So it's an on use, so you can kind of control that. And then you're going to be swapping to a different weapon after that attack speed bonus is down. Now, one thing also that's really good about this is it is a 2 speed. So the fact that it's 2 speed means more critical strikes. More critical strikes, meaning more instant cast exorcisms. So the weapon that we will be swapping to is the Lasher here. So it's going to give us 23 strength, 8 stamina. It's 52.3 damage per second with a 2 speed as well. Then the chance on hit here will lower the target strength by 15, and it deals 90 to 210 shadow damage with an additional 125 over 15 seconds. And then we'll be putting the counterweight on this weapon. Now moving on to our hands, we're going to be running the Disease-Ridden Plate Fist. Not sure if you guys could see that there, sorry. Here's the actual stats: 15 strength, 10 stamina, and then it improves your chance to hit with all spells and attacks by 1%. So these are coming from Sunken Temple as well, and we will be putting Enchant Gloves Greater Strength on these. In the waist, we're going to be running the Tusk Band, which also comes from Sunken Temple, 21 strength, 8 stamina. Then in our legs, we will be running the set piece, the Wailing Berserker's Leg Plates, 21 strength, 9 stamina, and then 1% increased critical strike. Then in our feet, we will be running the Berserker's Battle Boots. So the equip gives us 28 attack power. We get 9 agility and 13 stamina. And for our primary ring, we're going to be running the Drake Claw Band of the Berserker. 1% hit with all spells and attacks. 13 stamina, 20 attack power. Then our secondary ring is going to be Band of the Wilds here. 6 stamina, 20 attack power, 1% hit with all spells and attacks. And these are going to come from the Wild Offerings from Felwood. For our primary trinket, we're going to be running Dark Moon Card Decay. So spells and attacks sometimes leech 40 health from the target and apply a stack of decay. When that decay reaches 5 stacks, the target takes 225 to 375 damage. And then our second trinket here, Breath of the Beast, improves your chance to get a critical strike with all spells and attacks by 1% and then 1% hit. And this is also going to come from the Wild Offerings from Felwood. So we will actually need 27 total Wild Offerings. You need 3 for the initial rune, then 24 for the 2 Wild Offering items here, the ring and this trinket. Then the Librum of Benediction is what we're running from. Nomergan, reduce the mana cost of your seal spells by 10. There is one that does come from Sunken Temple, but it only increases our block chance. Now, if mana is not an issue, there is actually another one that comes from, the Blood Moon event right here. which will increase our attack power by 36 when fighting dragons. And that only costs 15 silver coins. Alright guys, then for the rotation, this is coming from Icy Veins, and I don't believe it's 100% accurate, but the purpose of this guide is sort of a beginner's guide. This is not a guide to help you parse over 90s or anything like that. This is just a beginner-friendly general overview guide. So I do think it is safe to come in here and use something like an Icy Veins guide just for the purposes of this video. So again, this is just going to be kind of a high-level overview of what to expect in the rotation for this phase. All right, so one thing that I do believe is wrong, I don't think that we're ever casting Seal of the Crusader here. Maybe a pro Paladin can help us out with that, but I've read multiple people say we do not cast Seal of the Crusader due to it being such a high mana cost, and we just completely replace it with Seal of the Martyrdom. So again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe that is correct. We're going to be running Crusader Strike on cooldown. This is going to help regenerate some of our mana. Obviously, anytime Exorcism procs, we want that instant cast Exorcism, as this is going to be the bulk of our damage. We're going to be weaving in Judgments. Now, just know it's 6% of our base mana, so if you are running into mana issues, feel free to kind of take this out of the rotation. This says use Consecration on cooldown. I do not believe that is correct, right? So you can take this out as well. If you are consecrating on cooldown, I'm pretty sure you're going to very quickly. If you are ruined into Divine Storm, you will pair that with your Seal of Command. And that's, of course, just going to be for like area of effect damage. And then down in our execute phase, it kind of changes between 20% and 10%, right? When it's under 20%, the mob, Hammer of Wrath is still going to incur its cooldown. But when it goes under 10%, it will not have a cooldown. Now, we do not want to replace Exorcism with Hammer of Wrath. In this case, we still want to be Exorcisming on cooldown. But when Exorcism is cooling down, we're going to replace it with Hammer of Wrath. So Hammer of Wrath always, unless Exorcism is off cooldown. Then obviously we do want to keep Sheath of Light up. This does last for 1 minute, so you're not going to have any issues keeping this up. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. We will see you all in the next one.